Hi, and thank you for joining us for this week's Crafternoon here at the Coronado Public Library. I'm Jacqueline Luna, your Adult Services Librarian, and this week we'll be making tea light holders. Thanks to the Friends of the Library for sponsoring this and all programs here. Let's get started. Okay, so in your Crafternoon kit should be some pieces of wax paper, a tea light, a couple of crayons, and a sharpener. Now, your wax paper won't be cut yet, so you're going to want to cut that into 8 equally sized pieces. I went ahead and I cut mine into 3 by 3 squares already, but really, whatever shape you want to do, whatever size you want to do, I would recommend it's at least 2.5 inches wide because it needs to be able to fit the tea light in the middle of it. But really, I mean, you can do a triangle, you can do like a little X shape on it. The key is you just want to make sure all of 8 are the exact same size, because what you're going to be doing is layering one on top of the other and melting the crayons in between to create a very fun little design. So let's go ahead and we're going to set our wax paper to the side, and we're going to grab our crayons and our sharpener. And we're going to sharpen these crayons to create some crayon shavings that we can then use to create our design. So pull that paper off to the side, and then go ahead, and I have a little spare piece of paper right here that I'm using to put my crayons on so that it stays nice and separate from my work surface. So just go ahead and sharpen off pieces of that crayon. And you can see I've got some pretty big pieces that are coming off here. But we're going to go ahead and in a second you can just break those up with your fingers to make them a little smaller once we've got a good amount. You don't need too much, but it's better to sharpen off just a little extra right now so that you don't have to worry about it afterwards. Alright, so I got a good amount of purple. Put that to the side. I'll do my next color here. Perfect. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how much I've got here. You can see about how much that is. It's not a terribly huge amount. But we're going to set this to the side. And now I'm going to break up some of these larger pieces so they're just a little bit smaller. And you'll see they're really easy to break up with your fingers. They don't have to be uniform or in any way the same. Then I'm going to mix them up just a little bit. Okay, so go ahead and brush off your fingers a little bit. And now you'll move that to the side. And you're going to grab your first piece of wax paper and go ahead and lay that down. It might curl up a little bit. Actually, lay it down the other way. It's a little bit easier. Okay. So then you're going to scatter some of your crayon shavings all along the wax paper. You don't need a ton, but kind of see how much you feel like doing, and then you're going to cover it with another piece of wax paper. So to the best of your ability, kind of make sure those are aligned. And it's okay if they're not perfect because you can always trim some of this off afterwards. Alright, then you're going to go ahead, you're going to take your iron on a dry heat setting, and just very carefully and very quickly run it over your crayon pieces to melt them. And you're going to want to do this for both sides because you can see it won't go all the way through the first time because you're doing this very quickly. You just want it to permeate, because the longer you do it, the more it'll smush all the colors and kind of blend everything together. So that kind of gives you a cool, unique looking shape. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and you're going to do the exact same thing for your remaining 3 sides. The other alternative you have too is, instead of, if you wanted to make a cool design on these as you went, you could wait to cut any designs, like any heart-shaped designs, or any, if you want to do like a peak on them, until you finish with this part, because then you'll see some of mine have a couple areas that didn't quite perfectly line up, so then you can cut those areas off and not have to worry about it ruining your design. Alright, so now your next step is going to be to go ahead and start taping your sides together. So at this point, if you wanted to trim it into a, let's see, I think I'm going to go ahead and give mine like a nice little triangle shape. But to make it a little easier, I'm going to do them all at the same time and just give it a quick little boom, boom. Just give it a little slightly different look, which is kind of fun. Alright, so you can also just leave it as a straight up square. You could, turn it into an arch. You can kind of do whatever you feel like. That is one of the beauties of this. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to tape our sides together. And so you're just lining them up so they're right there. You don't want to overlap them. You just want them perfectly like that, or as perfect as you can get it. Okay, so you can see they still bend nicely, which is just what we want. And now we're going to flip it over and just reinforce those three right there. Our final step is to tape this together so it forms a little cube. So take our last piece of tape, and this is probably the easiest way I've found to do it, is just hold these two sides together, push them like this, fold that tape over, and now you should have a nice, lovely little tea light holder. It's a fun little piece of decor, and you could do this for just about any season if you wanted to have different ones. And it's a fun one because you can do this for, for just a party and have them sitting around tea lights, just to make it kind of look a little bit festive. And you can use all sorts of colors, but like I said, different designs, however you wanted to do it. So definitely a fun one to play around with and enjoy.